This is where the big boys play, huh? We ain't here to play. At the total combined weight. At the total combined weight of 589 pounds.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, at well over 500 pounds, this is where the big boys play.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. This is At a Combined Weight. I am your host, Charlie Dudley, joined, as always, by the venerable Robert McElroy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Charles. How are you and both the canines?
Oh, we're doing all right.
You're always, you take care to sunshine pump them out on our social media. I like that. That's fun.
Well, yeah, they just recently had birthdays, so they're 5.
Oh,
They're badasses, so.
they are. It was 5, so it was 5 years ago you came home to the Chief house with little Sammy.
Yep, that's right. Yep, went and got him, and then my parents got Emma shortly after that. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you don't know what we're talking about, so follow us on Twitter. I'm not going to fill you in on the joke. You can look at Twitter.
Twitter siren.
That's At a Combined Weight. If you're not following us on Twitter, if you are, you know exactly what we're talking about. But this episode of Nitro is September 30th, 1996, live from Cleveland, Ohio. Exactly 20 years from today, if you're listening on Friday. And if you're not, why'd you wait so long to listen to it? But this audio will be better than the show. I guarantee you that, because this Nitro is not very good.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. This was not a very good show. Of course, the week before was an absolute train wreck. So I at least give Nitro 55 the credit for not being a total train wreck. My biggest issue with it, this will be a theme throughout the show. Maybe you'll agree. I felt every match, every angle, way too low stakes. The stakes weren't high. It was just every match had no real. That's all I can say. No high stakes involved.
Yeah, there was really no point. It was just they threw some matches out there for no reason, and and the work was okay, but you just didn't really buy into the conflicts. I mean, your main event, which we'll get to, Benoit and Steiner. I mean, they have no real beef between them, and you got plenty of issues abound throughout the company without even involving the NWO. But we'll get into it. We're going to go match by match as we always do. Opens the show from Cleveland, Ohio. Commentary calls last week's NWO takeover the lowest point in the company. And then they go to Bischoff, and he makes a statement, and he talks about the wrestling history that's involved under the umbrella of WCW. And, of course, he's referencing the NWA and the history that goes along with the NWA and guys like Lou Thesz and Harley Race and Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. And he runs down the NWO, calls them dirtbags and thugs, kind of, a State of the Union, if you will, like we're not going to run, we're here to stay, and in very ironic fashion, as we all know that Bischoff eventually will defect. How'd you feel about them opening the show like that and them going to Bischoff and making a statement?
I felt like it was needed. As the executive producer of a company that's under attack, he does need to stand out in front and confront whatever the attack is. Interesting that he would talk about them dating back to 1905 and bringing up guys like Lou Thesz, etc. I had no problem with it. They do a pretty good job with kayfabing it up, and this was just fine. I thought perfectly necessary. We've seen statement similar to this. I thought maybe since they were building it up at the very beginning of the show that it would be a more prolonged address. Did you?
Yeah, I thought it might have been a little bit longer, but I think they wanted to keep it short and sweet so that they could show us more binge eating by the Nasty Boys in the hotel room. But we'll get to that. First match of the show, El Technico and Juventud Guerrera versus Public Enemy, who were the tag team champions at the time. El Technico is, of course, Billy Kidman under a mask. I thought this match was awful.
No, it was bad.
Awful. And how can you have to be a talented motherfucker to have bad matches with Juventud Guerrera and Billy Kidman?
I felt very bad for Juventud Guerrero. I mean, I get that Public Enemy are your new champs, and maybe they should, in their first match as champs, get themselves a win. So you have an enhancement talent in an El Technico, who, the chief and his merry men in the back doing costumes did just a solid job on his.
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
You know, but why? Okay, so you want Public Enemy to have a win. You want to book them to win with their new belts. Fine, great, dandy. But don't put El Technico with Juventud Guerrera. I felt bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, you have plenty of enhancement tag team talent, like High Voltage. I mean, they're your jobber de jour, you know? I mean, the match was pretty much, it was really short, a very nothing match. Public Enemy gets the win, and then they put El Technico through the table. Interesting to note, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end of the show, is on the WCW Saturday night taping that would take place on October 1st, Public Enemy loses the titles to Harlem Heat. And we'll talk about the background to that later in the show. But, yeah, interesting to note that this is pretty much a cup of coffee for Public Enemy as they're going to lose the Harlem Heat on WCW Saturday night. The tag titles would change hands on October 5th on TV, but they tape it on the 1st. So they had the same kind of taping schedule as SmackDown once did before they went live. Then we have a backstage segment with Benoit and Mongo. Tenay still doing interviews as Mean Gene is still in contract negotiations, going back and forth with WCW. Mongo says the Horsemen are traveling as a unit to protect each other. Benoit pushes the main event with Rick Steiner. Really kind of just a brief promo from these two guys, you know, saying that, you know, this is why we're going to be traveling as a pack now, which they always have anyway.
Yeah.
There's really no difference, I don't think. What did you think about this one?
It was, like you say, very brief. Of course, they let Deborah... Every one of Deborah's promos are the same. Everyone. She talks about her husband's ring, says a word or two about the Horsemen, and that's that. Like, I don't know why they want to give her so much promo time. Like, they wouldn't do that with Elizabeth. They don't do it with Woman. I don't know why. Maybe
she's
Deborah's
not
the more
good.
No, absolutely not. And her voice kind of annoys me a little bit.
I feel like she's one of those type women that would, like, push to talk. I think I need to talk.
I wouldn't doubt that at all.
She seems like that kind of person because she was very involved, shall we say, when she was in WWF as well. You know, always talking and getting involved in matches and stuff, and you know, not a ton of women cutting promos back in this time, and she shouldn't be the one that was going to cut promos.
No, it's interesting. She doesn't. There's not a lot of match involvement by her, but by God, she's going to get a word or two in.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, at least like Sensational Sherry back in the day, she would cut some promos, but you know, she was a wrestler and she would always get involved in the match. You know, same with Sunny. You know, when she was cutting promos, she was always getting involved. And Deborah would get more involved, I think, as time went on. But her voice, it really annoys me. I know that she's from the South, but she just sounds so bumpkin to me. And it's just like, they're like, okay, well, you're going to be a Southern belle, a Southern beauty queen, and you just need to really, really lay on the accent thick. You know, it's just like a parody of itself within itself. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and going back to Sensational Sherry, I mean, Sherry, you can tell by the way she carries herself during matches and on the way to the ring, she knows ring psychology.
Yeah.
She's very well versed in the business by this time, and I mean, not unlike Mongo, who's still green and learning the ropes. Deborah's, I think, at that point,
green as well.
Yeah, she's green as well as a valet. Yeah.
Up next, you've got the NWO commercial, and I guess we'll stop calling them that because you get to hear them say, you know, the following announcement is paid for by the New World Order, and then you hear Hogan say, "Not anymore," which annoys me, but I digress.
He really overcooks your grits.
Just a lot of things that they do, especially now that the shows have started to dip a little bit, and it's just like I can remember why I didn't really like get into this era of WCW. Like I would, you know, I didn't sink my teeth into it as much as I did the WWF. Not that WWF's product was so much better, but you know, once you tuned into the NWO angle, you really didn't get much of anything at this point.
The show has dipped some, and it's going to be a little while before it picks up some steam, and it will. Hindsight's 2020. I wish I'd have paid more attention to both products.
I mean, I paid attention to. I remember watching this show because I vividly remember the Macho Man showing up, and I was pumped because I thought there was going to be a physical confrontation, and there was nothing. But we'll get to that later in the show. This segment shows the NWO sitting in a hotel room, you know, screwing around, making jokes. They're in the Marriott in Cleveland. And we get our first WCW appearance of Nick Hogan. For those of you who are big Hogan Knows Best fans, and you know that Nasty Nick, brother, he calls him Nasty Nick too.
He does.
What do you think about this segment?
At first, I thought it was very strange because I didn't realize it was his son until later. I thought, okay, why did they go and cast a child just for that? He made a deal with his mom. He's going to watch Nitro with us from 8 to 10 every Monday. Like, why?
Because it's just this fucking kid.
And it's this kid. That took me a minute to get to that point. Oh, this is Nick Hogan. All right, well, that makes a lot more sense.
You just saw some rando kid.
Well, in the grand scheme, yes. And I thought
we just got this kid from the hotel lobby, brother, and we're going to make him watch. His parents agreed that he's going to be watching Nitro, dude.
And I thought, since I thought that was the case, I thought it was WCW's way of saying, these guys, this group has a much grander and more poisonous influence than all of you out there might think.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of what they were going with that. Kind of showing that, you know, they're going to infiltrate the minds of the children. Not the children.
So, yeah, that is essentially, you're right. I mean, that is kind of what they were going for here, except it was his own child. I mean, we've talked a lot about the Chi-Phi pledges, and I mean, you look to the audience at the kids in these NWO shirts. I mean, there's a lot of them are pretty young.
Yeah, they're getting over with the younger people. DiBiase says WCW's paying for the NWO commercials now. That's why we get the not anymore from Hogan. And they're talking about Deborah McMichael, and Nash says that Deborah wants him. I thought that was funny.
It was.
And what kills me now, and I guess and I've just kind of developed this mindset with the NWO segments. I just kind of ignore everybody and just wait for the little gems and entertaining nuggets that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash will throw our way.
Yeah,
because everything else is just them trying too hard, I think.
Yeah, and we've talked about how so many people are they're all trying to act like the same character, same gimmick, and it's like that's not gonna go over. It's not gonna work. Right before the comment about Deborah and how he has a feeling that she wants him, he holds up like a book or a CD of Ross Perot, and he's like, "Isn't it amazing how you never see Bill Murray and Ross Perot in the same spot?" I never thought about how they like kind of have similar looks about them. I remember thinking like that is so off topic. Like you're clearly just like trying to make like the people in the room laugh and the viewing audience laugh. Yeah, you're popping yourself. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of the NWO stuff, I think, at this point. And I think the more it gets ridiculous that you see Hall and Nash try to pop themselves.
Yeah.
And you see Waltman try to pop them a lot of times. It's just, sophomoric humor and whatnot. But after the NWO segment, let's move on, talk about Dean Malenko, Alex Wright. Alex Wright has not developed his dancing gimmick yet. So therefore, he's not interesting yet.
I know. I keep waiting on it every week.
Malenko comes out with Ray's mask. He took it from Ray on WCW Saturday Night. The decent match here between these two guys, and then we see Alex Wright roll up Malenko and gets the win in upset fashion. This is just building to kind of Malenko needing to refocus before he faces Ray for the Cruiserweight title at Slim Jim's Halloween Havoc.
Very specifically, it's not Jack Link's or any of that other shit. It is Slim Jim's Halloween Havoc. I thought, as low stakes as this entire show was, and as poorly booked as it was, this might have been the highest stakes match we have. I mean, at least you have Dean Malenko, obviously with Mysterio on his mind as he comes to the ring with his mask and all that. It lets you know that, their feud is far from over.
At least you have these, like, one of the two guys in a program, you know? And you can talk about, hey, he has a match at Halloween Havoc coming up. This is what we're pushing for. But up next, entrance segment with the Macho Man. And after the match, they show footage of Liz watching the Macho Man beat down Big Bubba and then get involved with Nick Patrick on WCW Saturday Night. And it's supposed to be the entrance segment with Macho Man, but Macho Man no-shows. His music plays, he doesn't come out, and they're all wondering where he is. Interesting enough, they cut to commercial, and there he is on a commercial. And it's a Halloween Havoc snap to win sweepstakes. Not only could you win a Slim Jim monster truck, you could win a trip to Vegas for Slim Jim's Halloween Havoc.
This is back when the economy was good and you could win things like trucks.
Yeah. We're going to win a truck, man. Golly.
Yeah, I haven't heard of when have you heard in the last several years, I've just now thought of this, when have you heard in the last several years opportunities where you can, like, win a truck in a sweepstakes that's attached to the back of the candy or the
I don't know.
Beef jerky you're eating? I don't see that shit anymore.
No, not often. I mean, here, you're winning a fucking monster truck and a trip to Vegas, all expenses paid, and you're going to sit front row for Halloween Havoc.
Dude, it makes me wish that back then I'd have entered that sweepstakes.
You wouldn't have won.
Well, I mean,
maybe you would have, though, because there was this one guy from Coleman that won the damn motorcycle. So they were just picking people that they thought were bumpkins. So maybe they would have given you some eggs and butter too.
So he won what kind of motorcycle? What was this?
It was like a chopper motorcycle contest that it was. Oh God, I can't even remember what pay-per-view it was. It was. It might have been a Halloween Havoc.
Interesting. Well, we'll
Halloween
definitely
Havoc '95.
Yeah. This was a long ad, was it not?
Oh, yes. I was about to say that. If Flair shows up and they have a back and forth in the commercial, and Macho shows them, hey, this is a Slim Jim number 57 car, and Flair's down there, and he's like, can I enter the contest? Macho's like, no, we're going to wrestle. And then they're going back and forth, and it seemed like a good, 3 to 5 minute commercial at least.
It seemed that way, and in the age of the internet, and you're watching a YouTube video, and you cannot wait to press that button that says skip ad.
Yeah.
Fuck. That takes 5 seconds to do. So with these ads these days, you need to grab the customer quickly, and in the age of DVR, shit like this doesn't fly. So it was interesting to see. It was such a production number.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. Up next, Eddie Guerrero versus Jim Powers. Shivani takes the early part of the match and the entrance time, talking about how nobody's heard from Sting. He's not in the back. We don't know where he is. And then they start pushing that Eddie's going to face DDP at Halloween Havoc for the Battle Bowl ring. And I don't ever remember the Battle Bowl ring being that big of a deal, but they pushed the hell out of it.
Yeah.
It's not like DDP wears it to the ring and shows it in the camera to where oh, there's the Battle Bowl ring, and, to where it's they put it over. It's just, I think they just use it for a stipulation, it seems.
It's interesting because, it's not one of the titles, but it is something. There for a while it seemed like DDP was pretty attached to it. There was the episode where Hacksaw ends up with the thing.
Right.
But, I feel like they have enough belts to go around. You could have, a fun angle with a title that but hell, this is a company where Flair's U.S. champion, he didn't wear his fucking belt to the ring.
We haven't seen the television championship defended on Nitro since we've been doing this show.
Oh, dude, it's been a while, man. It's been a while, and I can't wait to see it again, because it means I'll get to see William Regal again and hear his awesome entrance music.
Yeah. Sizable NWO chant here with your Chi-Fi pledges walking around with signs.
Oh, and they got heat, man.
Yeah, they did. And, Zbyszko and Giovanni are angry about it. Eddie gets the win, executes a German suplex. Nick Patrick counts Powers down. Decent match. Just a drop back for Patrick's impending heel turn, and just to kind of bring up the fact that Eddie's going to have a match at Halloween Havoc. Then we go back to the hotel, and the Nasty Boys show up. They say they're here to talk business and party. And was it me, or did they purposely make the Nasty Boys seem out of place and no one wanted them there except Hogan?
I think that is the most well-booked aspect of this show. And it's interesting that, you have a very loaded segment here. You have guys wanting to fit into a group that they think is cool. The guys that are cool, said group is very subtly taking digs at them, but not enough to piss the Nasty Boys off to retaliate or leave.
And the commentary doesn't make a comment about it. They just say that the Nasty Boys are in. But you can tell, the body language and the little one-liners are laying the little groundwork that, we're going to see a booty man situation here.
Oh, yeah.
And, I thought it was really well done, and I wasn't expecting it to be well done at all. I just was, just throw them in there, and, this is where they just fuck around, and just general fuckery, and eating donuts and pizza and shit.
One other small aspect of this that might have helped the angle, were the camera angles itself. You're down below, so you're looking up at these massive individuals, and if there's a brawl, they'll fall down on top of the fucking cameraman, and it'll be chaos and shit.
Right.
Interesting that, the most non-subtle dig was when Hall was like, You guys are rednecks. You probably like NASCAR.
Yeah, but see, that's their gimmick, though. They are. I mean, they talk about Pity City, like they put people in their armpits. They're the nasty boys, so they kind of buy into that whole redneck and deal. But yeah, I thought it was not so subtle, but well done. Like I said, all of the NWO segments, you wait for the Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, little glorious nuggets to be said, and that's what
they're fantastic.
I mean, that's what makes me pop huge, because I can get through the thousands of brothers and dudes and new blood from Hogan and your Cook hot dog weenies, as you always say.
Oh, but yeah, you got to get through a lot of hot dog weenie before you get to the good shit. I agree. After the redneck comment, I think it was Sags that comes back with, this is more than WCW ever did for us. Or that might have been Knobs. And Sags is like, we love you guys. And after they get through running their mouths a little bit, Nash is like, Nash makes fun of the way they talk.
Yeah.
Did you? When I tell you that pops me the rest of the afternoon, when I heard that shit, I paused it I had to pause it to get my shit together and go get something to eat. I came back. I rewound it you can press that rewind 10 seconds ago button.
Right.
I was on that for the rest of the afternoon. That shitty, terrible show, but we get that. It was funny as hell.
Yeah. I told you, it's the little Scott Hall, Kevin Nash nuggets that make the NWO segments not suck so bad. Backstage segment back at the show with Arn Anderson, Liz, and Woman. Arn's kind of lecturing Liz about her and Macho. We thought this was in the past. You're either with us or against us. And, he kind of lays it out. Either she's in or she's out. She needs to make her decision. And this kind of underlying theme, that right before Arn's match, he says the same thing. You need to decide. And Woman kind of reiterates that mindset to her. I thought this was a decent segment. I mean, I don't really like the angle, but Arn kind of gets you to buy into it.
Yeah, definitely. I love any time Arn gets to speak to the people, if you will.
Right.
And it's not often we get to hear a woman talk. It was good to hear words come out of her from her voice there. She's so incredibly hot.
Yes, she is. Up next, Hugh Morris, Brad Armstrong. Shivani and Zbyszko start questioning the Nasty Boys. Are they in the NWO? Are they, part of the NWO, whatever? Then Bischoff points out, as we go to hour number 2, that the Nasties aren't NWO. They're just guppies who are getting fooled by Hogan. So that's the first kind of, I guess, counterpoint to the idea that they are in the NWO. And Bischoff's like, they're not in the NWO. They're just idiots. They're just, there, and Hogan's stringing them along. So that kind of idea that, that if you picked up on the subtle hints and them making fun of the Nasty Boys, that you would kind of pick up on that.
Indeed, and those who missed the subtle hints, Bischoff gives the rest of those people
the hammer hit on the head, if you will.
Yeah.
Listen, motherfuckers.
I mean, if they can get this right, there's so many other things I could have gotten right.
Yeah.
There's so many things that they just nail, like this, like the whole Nasty Boys thing, but... Anyway.
I thought it was good that Heenan points out that something was wrong since Savage didn't show up earlier, and then I thought it was really good how he stressed that, Savage is not going to be the one that turns to the NWO. He's already unhinged. If he's not here, nothing's going to keep him from wrestling. Nothing's going to keep him from showing up. Something's got to be wrong. Something's going on. And they don't really mention it that much after that.
True. It was almost like Heenan giving a nod to Macho Man's professionalism in spite of being unhinged. He's like,
Right.
He might be a crazy son of a bitch, but if he's scheduled for an interview or a match, he'll be there. This is his profession.
Hugh Morris, Brad Armstrong was kind of it was an okay match. Morris gets the win. He does 2 moonsaults, and they don't really even talk about anything in the match. They talk about, oh, look, Hugh Morris did 2 moonsaults, but, Savage is going to the NWO, the NWO this and the NWO that. It's just constant pushing of the NWO angle. So, but Hugh Morris gets the win over Brad Armstrong and his fantastic entrance music. Up next, you had Chris Jericho, Arn Anderson. Before the match, Bischoff says he's out of here. He's going to find the Macho Man, which he never shows up the rest of the show.
Yeah, it made me think that perhaps this was, a bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah,
did you think that as well?
Yeah, but I try to get that out of my mind because I'm not supposed to know what happens in the future, Yeah. Like, you can pick up on foreshadowing, or is it you looking too much into things? And I think that it could be me just looking too much into things. But it could not. You never know.
Yeah, it makes me wonder that these moments like this where I do know what's coming up, but maybe am I looking too much into it? It makes me think, well, we've talked about this before, that maybe I'm giving WCW Creative too much credit.
Yeah, a lot of times you are.
For things like foreshadowing.
Right.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Well, sometimes they do a good job of dropping little hints here and there, but other times there's no way that they were that intricate about that type of booking when a lot of the things that they have done let them know that, there's no fucking way that they knew that was going to happen like that.
Right.
Chris Jericho, Arn Anderson. Woman comes out with Arn. No Liz, as we talked about. The whole Liz questioning whether she should come out with them or not. She's obviously a torn woman at this point. Commentary talks a ton about the Macho Liz angle and Bischoff not being there. Pretty good match. Jericho misses a lion salt. Arn gets the win with the DDT. Jericho still looks good. It just seemed like the DDT came out of nowhere. So it keeps Jericho strong in the loss. Moving on, or you want to talk about it?
Oh, no. That's pretty much that. I love how they've kept Jericho strong.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
He booked well. He didn't win, but I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, once you saw Arn Anderson get that DDT, you don't see the DDT as a finisher that much these days.
No, it's a transition spot now.
Yeah, but 20 years ago...
Shame. Yeah. Oh, Arn Anderson, Jake the Snake, great DDTs.
Yes.
Up next, Lex Luger, M Wall Street. He used to be VK Wall Street, now he's M Wall Street. Formerly IRS, obviously Mike Rotunda. They show Liz leaving the building. I thought this match was terrible. I wanted to poke my eyes out with Scott Hall's toothpick rather than watch this match.
Yeah, it wasn't very good, man.
Tons of rest holds. Just, Then we go to WCW revealing the Sting NASCAR. Shivani prefaces the reveal with WCW basically saying, we're sorry, we were wrong, it cost them War Games, kind of a peace offering to Sting. And I remember this because we actually watched the Busch race that the NWO car and the Slim Jim Halloween Havoc car were involved in, because my cousin Tyler, big NASCAR fan, and we were at my grandmother's and we watched the race, and Kyle Petty wrecks into the wall, but the Sting car is actually driven by Elliott Sadler. Interesting to note, Elliott Sadler is heavily involved with TNA and really good friends with Jeff Jarrett and that whole deal. So, just trying to reach the fan base, and Turner's really involved in NASCAR at this time, and just trying to circle the wagons, I guess. So
yeah.
A lot of those fan bases, I'm sure, cross over. WCW and NASCAR, wrestling and NASCAR.
Oh yeah, I mean they do a good
southern
job.
Things.
Yeah, definitely. They do a fine job with their synergy from Slim Jim to Sturgis
Right.
to this. I'm not gonna lie, man. If I were to find like some little toy replica NWO or Sting or Halloween Havoc little NASCARs, I would snap those up, provided they weren't too expensive.
Yeah,
and
provided they
I'm
fit
not
into your budget.
Yeah, and I'm not even a NASCAR fan, but I would.
Oh
still
yeah, it'd be cool to have. It's one of those things. Rock and Roll Express, Faces of Fear up next. Okay match, tons of offense here from Faces of Fear. About what you'd expect in a Rock and Roll Express match. Ricky Morton gets the shit kicked out of him for the entire match, and then makes a hot tag to Gibson, but Ming and Barbarian a little too much. Barbarian kicks Gibson in the back of the head. Faces of Fear get the win. And then we have some extracurriculars where the Faces of Fear beat down the Rock and Roll Express. And it brings out the Public Enemy because they're, your babyface champs and want to get involved in a heel tag team. And this also kind of plays into what I talked about earlier in the show, how the Faces of Fear hurt Johnny Grunge's knee. And that knee problem would cost the Public Enemy the tag team titles on WCW Saturday Night. And it would kind of play into something that we'll talk about toward the end of the show. What did you think of this match?
I thought I can't decide whether I felt this was the best match of the show or Malenko.
Alex Wright.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. The pile driver on Ricky Morton looked like death. That thing looked so good. Oh my God! I'm glad Ricky Morton's alive and well today.
Oh yeah, alive and well, still sporting the mullet.
Still rocking the mullet. Mark Curtis, did you see Mark Curtis when the Barbarian had put his hands on him and he did his little he goes.
Yeah, he kind of hits his hands off of him.
I gotta put my earpieces back on because I had to stand up to demonstrate that move.
Mark Curtis was a great referee.
He became my favorite referee. So Smurl Haggard and like the little movements he does in the ring. Take note next time he calls for the bell. It's so dramatic.
Everything he does is very overpronounced and very dramatic and very well done, I thought.
Yeah, his little arm swinging to get Barbarian's hands off of him. And I mean, I feel like that move would work on a guy that is much, much stronger than you.
Yeah, it might. Who knows?
That's about the only thing you could do if you're him.
Then we have the NWO commercial up next, where the Nasty Boys are picking out and licking cardboard plates and whatnot. And then Hollywood Hogan says, Nasty Nick wanted a race car dude, and we got us a NASCAR driver, and Kyle Petty's there with him, and then he promos on Macho Man and Halloween Havoc, and that's pretty much it. I thought it was very funny that you open the segment with the Nasty Boys just eating like they've never eaten before.
I mean, it was so over the top.
Yeah.
So over the top. He's got an entire, the fat end of the pizza, all that's left is the crust hanging out of his mouth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's obviously to show that the Nasty Boys can't hang with these guys, that even they are not cool enough or not nasty enough or whatever you want to say to be with the likes of the NWO. I thought it was cool they had Kyle Petty there, though.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah, nice little synergy.
Yeah, they would involve more celebrities later on, too many. Yeah. But this is one of those few times that...
They're very subtle, too.
Yeah, they do a good job with it, and it's the first time we see that.
Main event, Chris Benoit, Rick Steiner. Pretty solid back and forth. You get your power spots from Steiner, your more technical aspects from Benoit. Mongo gets in and knocks the shit out of Rick Steiner in the back with the briefcase. Shivani and the commentators are complaining that there's no way Nick Patrick didn't hear the impact of the briefcase, calling into question Nick Patrick's competence as a referee again. Benoit gets the win. That's the end of your wrestling for the evening.
If we may rewind a little bit, I loved how at the very beginning of during Rick Steiner's entrance, Heenan just buries the fact that his nickname is the Dog-Faced Gremlin.
Because he's ugly?
He just thinks it's a terrible name. Hey, Mom, I'm dating the Dog-Faced Gremlin. Can I marry the Dog-Faced Gremlin? You're going to be a grandmother courtesy of the Dog-Faced Gremlin. Goes from dating to marriage to the kid, and how awful it would be if you had to take home a guy named the Dog-Faced Gremlin.
Heenan always does it. He's always great for, little clever one-liners here and there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The final NWO segment of the evening, Knobs is wearing the fucking werewolf mask when it cuts to the hotel. And he's, like, yelling and just being weird. And, like, fucking around, acting like a douche. And then we've got Liz sitting in the middle with the Giant and Hogan on either side of her. And the Giant's kind of giving her a sales pitch in the NWO, and Hogan is too. And then Vincent walks in with a damn present, which we never end up seeing what's in the box. What's in the box?
Yeah.
What'd you think of the end here?
I
we
mean,
get to the payoff at the end.
I'm not sure what kind of payoff. The whole damn thing was underwhelming, but.
What I mean was, Macho shows up and starts yelling in the hallway.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by the payoff.
I wonder how many people on that floor of the hotel called down to the front desk, or maybe they just reserved that whole floor.
They probably reserved the whole floor.
More than likely.
Or just, said everybody needs to be out of their room during this time because it wasn't going to be live.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was. Who knows?
I think this segment further perpetuates how influential and appealing the NWO can be. In spite of how frightened Liz has been of them, she's right there sitting on the couch between, its two biggest guys, or two of its biggest guys, and Giant's trying to sell her on. I mean, the Giant's a guy who, had gotten his ass kicked by them weeks and weeks, and now he's with them, trying to convince other people to join.
Yeah, because he got acting roles, what he was telling Liz, hey, we can get you in these movies, and, things won't be bad for Savage at Halloween Havoc. We'll make it quick and painless for him. And so that's kind of what they're kind of speaking to, is kind of her maybe bargaining with them as a way to keep him safe at Halloween Havoc. But then the Macho Man shows up and runs down the hall and sees Liz, and he's like, you set me up! And then he runs down, and he runs back and forth and says a line, on camera, and then he runs out of the camera, and he comes back and says something else. I thought it was amusing, but it wasn't supposed to be. He says, son of a bitch.
Yeah,
twice. He says, yeah, you set me up. Son of a bitch! You set me up. Son of a bitch. But what I hated about this is nothing happens.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. It shows him coming in a hotel room, and I remember watching this, and I was thinking, okay, Macho's about to go in there, and all hell's going to break loose, and he's at least going to break some furniture or something, but nothing happens. And again, like last week, I raged against the idea that Hacksaw Jim Duggan it would never just bypass the NWO at the broadcast booth and just be out there all smiles with his 2x4 and American flag. There's no way, it doesn't matter how many fucking people were in that hotel room, that Macho doesn't go in there.
I couldn't agree more.
They push how off his rocker he is, and we've seen him try to attack them with hundreds of guys there. Why wouldn't he try to go in there then? So I didn't like the ending here. I didn't think we got any kind of payoff, and I thought it was shitty. The whole show was shit.
Yeah, it was bad. 2 weeks in a row, two bad shows. Looking forward to it making a comeback, but that's not going to be for a little while, I have a feeling.
I mean, maybe you'll get a little uptick here and there. I watched a little bit of next week's show, just a few, probably about 45 minutes ago, and just a little bit of it. It was much improved.
That's good.
But at the end of the show, just talk a little bit about what's going on outside of the auspices of WCW, stuff with contracts and that kind of thing. As I mentioned earlier, Public Enemy lose the belts to Harlem Heat, and the reason they got beat down here was to plant the seeds for a reason for them to lose the belts, and then further an injury to kind of get Johnny Grunge off of TV, because not only do they lose the belts, they get a return match on Nitro, and they just take Johnny Grunge's knee out, and he's done. And he's going to have elbow surgery. And another person you haven't seen in a while, and you won't see him for quite some time, is Ric Flair. And he's having shoulder surgery that's going to keep him out 3 to 4 months after the first of the years, when he's supposed to be back in action. Tore his rotator cuff. So that's why you haven't seen Ric Flair on TV the last few weeks. Also, which they talk about this in the beginning of the next Nitro, but Kyle Petty, after his Nitro appearance, wrecks into the wall in his first race, driving the NWO car in the Busch race, which is now, I don't know what it's called now, but it's the like minor league NASCAR. It's like the night before NASCAR races, they always have a race. That's what the Busch Series used to be. So, and during this, it's also interesting that Macho Man is unhappy with his current position in the company, and his contract is due to expire in November. So there was talk around this time that Halloween Havoc was going to be his last appearance for WCW. Also, interesting tidbit is that this episode of Monday Nitro was live from Cleveland, and last week's was live from Birmingham, and this week's SmackDown was live from Cleveland, and last week's was live from Birmingham. So that's not going to happen this coming week, because SmackDown is live from San Diego, and next week's Nitro that we'll cover, or 20 years ago, is from Savannah.
Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia.
Interesting that they would spend all this time in the South like they did, go to Cleveland, and come back down. You would think they would have hit Savannah, then gone up, you know?
Yeah, well, I think they went up and ran some shows up there, and then they're going to come back down and fuck around in the South, and then head over to Vegas.
Okay.
Because that's where Halloween Havoc is at the end of the month. So they'll probably hit Texas, that area, just go along I-10 there. That kind of mentality, I guess.
Dude, how much of a shit show of a people watching session do you think Halloween Havoc? It's a Halloween, themed event now, and it's in Las Vegas, and it's wrestling. OMG.
Yeah, the MGM Garden Arena, which was kind of brand new around that time. I mean, it was, newer. Just the type of clientele that you're going to get at that event would be crazy to me.
I'm going to pay extra attention to the fans when it comes time for us to cover that show. It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, so overall, bad show. Interesting that a lot of these things, I think the rumors and the news heading out of this after reading the old lariats are more interesting than the show itself. But you're starting to see the NWO get too big, I believe. And it's just going to get bigger. And to where there's really no explanation for what they're doing from week to week. There's no any kind of dastardly stuff happening. And there's about to be a big influx of people too in the coming weeks. In the coming weeks, you're going to see tons and tons of other guys show up and get in the NWO. I'm curious to see how it's explained and how it's done, because I don't really remember it all. And that's the only exciting part about it.
Yeah. I outside of finally getting to see Sting come back in his Crow Sting regalia, I'm with you, man. I can't wait to see how they're going to try to explain some of this stuff that, as a kid, I just kind of bought hook, line, and sinker, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you've got Bischoff that's going to join soon, Liz, Big Bubba. Then I don't know when Masahiro Chono ends up going with them, or Scott Norton, Buff Bagwell, Conan. I mean, that's all in the next, 2 to 3 months.
Shit.
I mean, it's huge.
Well, we talked about this. There's so many guys back in that locker room who, it's pretty well documented. They saw how well they were being booked, wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, at least say, hey, I'm not really, I'm wrestling like High Voltage or Mike Winter every week, and if I'm with the NWO, I'm getting paid the same, but at least I look cool, and it'll help me if I ever leave the company. And at least I don't have to get my ass kicked every week. I can just walk around and be cool and shit. So, there's something to be said for that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Marcus Alexander Bagwell, he, for a while, there was an interesting, familial tie he had with me for a moment with my current stepsister. Marcus Bagwell was dating a relative of hers, so very, distant from me, but still tied in. But anyway, when my mother met him, he signed a picture of himself in NWO garb, and made sure I got it. So I mean, he rode the NWO thing out forever.
Oh yeah, well, because what are you going to sign? Are you going to sign Buff Bagwell pictures, or are you going to sign American Male stuff? I mean, because Buff kind of it kind of put him where he thought he should have been with the guys that he hung out with all the time. I mean, he was workout buddies with Sting and Luger, and he was never going to be that type of star until the NWO came along and he became Buff Bagwell. And it kind of it brought him to the forefront of where, if you watched Nitro back in the day, or if you're talking about wrestling, he's one of the guys that comes up. I mean, he is, no doubt about it. You could talk about, hey, NWO, who do you think about? And you go through your regular, like Hall and Nash, but your secondary guys, he's the number one secondary guy.
Yeah, props to him for that.
I mean,
sure.
that's a nice little area of nostalgia and wrestling marketing that he's done for himself.
Oh yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to ride that out forever.
Right. All right, well, you got anything else?
No, I sure don't. Shoot us a follow on social media, at A Combined Weight. That's at A Combined Weight. I believe we got a Gmail account, too.
Yeah, we do have a Gmail account. If you want to send us an email, ask us a question, tell us how you love the show, tell us how you want Robert to play-by-play your life, it's at A Combined Weight at gmail.com. We're going to have some interesting shows coming up here shortly off of our Nitro shows. As most of you probably know, we had an action figure show that was a lot of fun. We're probably going to do another action figure show here pretty soon. I'm thinking about doing an entrance theme show as well. Also going to be doing a kind of a specialty podcast that we're working with a media company in Atlanta. We're going to do a little something with them coming up. So if you follow us on Twitter, we'll give all the details to you there. So make sure you pay attention to that. Where else can they find you on social media again?
Twitter and Instagram, being_large on Facebook. Shoot me a like at Robert McElroy Actor.
So next week we'll be back with the October 7th edition of Monday Nitro. That's going to do it for this week. It's 20 years ago today, if you're listening on Friday. If you're not listening on Friday, what have you been doing with your life that you're not listening to us when we put it out?
Yeah, what the hell are you going to do on a Friday? Just,
listen to us as you go into the weekend and get ready for college football on Saturday and the NFL on Sunday. Looking forward to seeing if Tennessee can beat Georgia. As much as I hate Tennessee and as bad as Georgia looked, I don't know how bad they're going to look this week.
Tennessee, they may be one of those teams that wins a bunch of games this year by just smoke and mirrors. We've seen that plenty of times before. I think
they're much better than what they've looked. I mean, they looked great in the second half against Florida. And I know that, me being a Florida fan, it was terrible, but if they can put 4 quarters together, they can beat anybody in the country, I think. We haven't seen them play 4 quarters yet.
I think it's totally okay, too, that we haven't seen – you don't want to be playing your best football in September.
No, not at all.
You want to be playing your best football and we're coming up on it. October, November.
Yeah.
Get ahead of steam going into Atlanta, provided that they make it there. I mean, we know they're talented enough. Well documented how well Tennessee recruits.
I'm hoping they put together 4 quarters about that time, the 3rd week in October. Is it the 2nd week this time? Beat them some bitches down in Tuscaloosa a little bit.
Well, yeah, it'd be nice. But, even going into this weekend, me being here in Atlanta amongst a bunch of butt-hurt dogs, it would be tremendous to see Tennessee embarrass them. I really do not like Kirby Smart. Like, he is such a douchebag, in my opinion.
No, he is a douche. And I don't think Georgia's good, man.
No, they're not.
They made such a huge deal about how Mark Richt's teams were underperforming, and there was so much talent there. And now when they get smoked by Ole Miss, they're all bitching, saying, well, there's no talent. So which one is it? Yeah. Is there a ton of talent that was underperforming under Mark Richt, or is there just no talent there? I think there's talent there. I mean, you've got Nick Chubb and Eason. They're a hell of a talent.
Oh, Eason was the number 1 recruited quarterback in the country coming out of high school, and he seems to be living up to the billing. Dude, and Kirby Smart, to stay on him for a little bit more here, he took a page right out of Saban's book, which is fine, but it was kind of the wrong page. You don't have – if you're going to be a douchebag to the media, you need to get a few more wins under your belt, a few more championships, and even then it's not a fucking requirement.
Right.
Like – you don't be an asshole to the media when someone asks you a very professional question, when they are not there to bury you or make you look dumb, and then go into Saturday's game and get your eyes beat in by Ole Miss. Right. It'll tickle me pink to see it happen 2 weeks in a row. It really will.
Oh, yeah. As much as I hate both teams, I would like to see Georgia get their ass kicked, because I think Tennessee might be the only chance that we have at this point to see Alabama lose in conference play.
Yeah, it could possibly be. Now, you mentioned you hate Tennessee. I'm one of the few Alabamians that don't hate Tennessee.
I hate Tennessee because I'm a Florida fan first. And the only reason why I'm an Auburn fan is because we went there.
Exactly, yeah, so maybe you're a bit of an anomaly in that. But, in the state of Alabama, it didn't make sense to me that a lot of Auburn people hated Tennessee too. I'm going, dude.
Yeah, there is no reason for them.
There's no reason for it, but it existed anyway. And I go, you fucking dumbasses. On the Saturdays they beat Alabama, and there were many years in a row where they did.
The 90s were full of them.
The 90s are full of them. I'm like, you get no enjoyment out of that? How do you also
See,
not?
I would think that as an Auburn fan, Tennessee would be probably your favorite East team, because, they're in the 90s, they're the only chance you had to beat Florida, which is not really a hated rival for Auburn, but kind of a decently hated rival. But they beat Georgia on a consistent basis in the 90s. Yeah. And that's it's Auburn's second biggest conference rival.
Yeah. So
my hate for Tennessee stems only from their interaction with Florida. I mean, that game in the week 3 was the biggest conference game all year, from from 1990 till 2001.
Yeah.
You know, if you're Florida or Tennessee and you won that game, you won the East. Pretty much. I mean, that's how it happened.
Yeah.
But we'll get out of the college football wormhole, if you will. But, hey, if you like college football and want to hear us talk about it more, shoot us an email. Maybe we'll do a little brief preview on each show, or we'll throw something up on YouTube if that's something that people want to hear. But that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for clicking the link that brought you here on PWInsiderElite.com. Make sure you check everything else out heading into the pay-per-view a week from Sunday for WWE and all the latest TNA news with the crazy thing that's going on over there these days. But again, thanks for clicking the link that brought you here. You've been listening to At a Combined Weight. For Robert McElroy, I'm your host, Charlie Dudley. We will see you next week.